Hey guys, we're in New Zealand and today we want to go through a little bit of our experience in Masters of Architecture. So I'm Harry.
Hi, I'm Ethne. So a little bit background about us. We actually both did high school in New Zealand and we both did undergrad at the University of Sydney. However, we chose to take different paths in Masters, and I'm currently studying MArch 1 at Yale University.
And I'm doing my Masters at NUS, National University of Singapore. So today we're going to go through that brief summary of the design comparisons and style between the two universities, one being American and one being Asian.
So obviously we don't represent like the whole school as two individual students. However, we just want to give you guys a little bit insight into what it's like studying at these two universities, and perhaps you guys can criticize or comment on our work if you guys want to.
Yeah, so we split this video into two parts. Part one just talking about the design comparisons and style of architecture between the two universities, and part two
will be under my channel. We'll then go into the differences between studio culture and how it's like studying in two different universities. And then we'll also be commenting on each other's studio work, and that'll be in part 2 of this video.
So starting off, we're going to go through the NUS architecture style that I experienced during my first semester at the university. So starting off, this project, which I'll put up somewhere here. The project brief was that we were given a large site for a group project where we all pick a section of the site and designed it according to whatever we wanted. It was quite free actually, but it had to be practical as all the projects amongst our classmates had to kind of correlate and link together.
So it was kind of like group work that you all collaborate together to build this community of architecture.
Yeah. So my particular project in this master plan was hotels that acted as coastal protection for this forest, this neighboring forest. The hotels are physically going to nurture the forest because, as we know, coastal regions are very subject to harsh conditions such as the sea salt spray effect, which is when the wind from the seaside blows salt particles into the forest, which in turn could dry up vegetation as well as cause soil infertility, changing the soil compositions where trees and forests wouldn't be able to thrive from.
Okay.
Yeah, so the hotels in this sense blocked, they try to reduce wind turbulence and to prevent the soil dispersion onto the inland. So
I love how your architecture actually goes beyond the boundary of architecture and achieving something else other than the function of a building for people. I love how it's actually linking to the environment, to the society, and somewhat pushing the boundary of what architecture can do.
Okay, so in relation to the NUS design style, I guess, you could say that NUS style is very practical in a sense that, and systematic in a way. I've seen that from my personal experience, my classmates all did very linear, structural kind of designs, which I think that is the norm in NUS. I know that my personal design wasn't very linear and structural.
Yeah, it's not at all.
It's very much conceptual with this organic kind of parametric form and all. But that was because I think that I already established my own individual style from my bachelor's being in Sydney University. And Sydney University was a very conceptual university.
Both experienced that stage where we were encouraged to explore our personal style, our personal preferences in design, and we just really had a lot of freedom in design back in Sydney Uni.
I guess that's something that showcased through my projects at NUS.
Definitely.
Yeah, but I'll say that majority of my classmates all were quite structured and linear in their designs.
It's very interesting how you mentioned that there appears to be a somewhat consistency in the style of your student work at NUS. And I think that does not apply to Yale, especially in first year MArch 1, which I've experienced, because I'm not too sure if that is partly due to the fact that MArch 1 students could potentially come from diverse background other than architecture. Yeah, so I have classmates who come from backgrounds such as economics, literature, mathematics, and physics, etc. So everybody has experienced architecture to a certain level. However, there is a high level of flexibility in terms of what you want to achieve.
Yeah. For NUS, everyone all come from Bachelors of Architecture, not from other academic degrees. So I guess that is why Masters of Architecture at NUS is a bit more practical, because they should have already developed their own personal architecture style by now, and all they're trying to do now is to kind of put it into a project.
I wouldn't say this is a difference between, for example, Asian or Western architecture education, but I do think there is a certain preference in advocating exploration and conceptual search at Yale University, especially in first year. So I'll be showing my work here. So this is my studio work, and we were asked to design a spiritual and daycare center at whichever setting that we choose. And all we were asked to do in the brief is to choose a pattern and then a plan precedent that we can base off from. But other than that, we were given the freedom to write our own brief, achieve whatever we wanted to do through our architecture. Which in my case, this daycare center is located in rural Chiang Mai in Thailand. It's next to a primary school that I visited back in high school on an English teaching trip. So in this building, I aim to provide this after-school spiritual and meditating daycare center for the children of that government school who are majority recent immigrants or refugees to Thailand. So in my project, I try to explore this not only design concept, but also a societal impact that could potentially be achieved through the built environment. However, I wouldn't say there is a style similarity between any of my classmates, because I feel like everyone chose their own plan precedent, everyone chose their distinct pattern too. So I would say it was very hard to find similar styles among the studio
I've
work.
actually seen a lot of her classmates' projects, and which we can't really show because we don't have their approval to show. But yes, I can say that a lot of their classmates are very explorative in their design and ambitions.
However, I do feel like there's this huge commonality between us, how we're both trying to improve the current way of building architecture in this world, which is highly urban oriented and somewhat, would you say, outdated?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, this is just our opinion, it's purely subjective, but I guess both of us are trying to push the boundary of architecture, at least in our studies, where we get the freedom to do so. So
I hope that everyone watching has learned something about perhaps a small comparison between the two universities in the design style and all.
Yeah, and in part 2 of this video, we'll be talking more about our experiences studying there and what the studio environment is like at Yale and at NUS.
Yeah, so give us a like, subscribe and comment what you guys want to actually hear next. The link is down below for part 2, which will be posted on Ethany's channel.
Yeah, so continue part 2. Bye!